Our next witness is Michelle, is it?
That's correct, sir.
Michelle.
Please state your full name
Michelle Delia Baker.
and repeat after me. I do solemnly, sincerely
I do solemnly, sincerely,
and truly declare and affirm
and truly declare and affirm
that the evidence I shall give
that the evidence I shall give
shall be the truth,
shall be the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth.
Michelle, you met your late husband Vincent in 1999.
Yep.
And you've got a photo of him you'd like to have on the screen while you're giving your evidence. Just to explain, we've just received the photograph, and it's we've redacted the faces of your daughters because we don't have explicit consent from them to show their faces for today, because we've just got it. Okay,
Yeah.
So but we can see Vincent there in the photo. Before you met, Vincent was involved in a motorbike accident.
Is there any way that we can portray the picture without the big blank white bit in the middle?
So I'm afraid
Concentrate
this is
on
the first time
face.
I've seen it redacted, and it's not ideal. Perhaps we can take
That's
even
better.
There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Before you met, Vincent was involved in a motorbike accident. What do you know about that?
Not a lot really. I just know he was in hospital for about 6 months. He broke his leg, and he got given 4 units of blood.
And that accident was on the 11th of March 1983.
Yes. Right.
He was put in traction, as you say. He was in hospital for about 4 or 6 months before returning home.
Yes.
And it was during that stay that he was infected with hepatitis C from a blood transfusion.
Yes.
Can you tell us what Vincent was like?
Happy-go-lucky, adored his children, loved his car boot sales. A very family-orientated man. Loved his mum and dad to death. Hard-working.
You had 3 children together.
Yep, 3 children.
Until 2008, Vincent was well.
Yes.
As far as you were concerned, it was a normal family life together.
Yes. Yeah, we had our family holidays camping down in Cornwall. Yeah, doing weekend family things.
Just ordinary day-to-day life
Yep.
together.
Yep.
What changed in 2008?
He just started getting quite ill. His skin started getting quite thin. The slightest knock, he used to start bleeding. He did start drinking. Then admitted he was an alcoholic and went to the doctors to get help from that, from which he did give up drinking, he gave up smoking when he realised that he had problems with his liver. But at that point we didn't realise it was HVC. They all presumed it was just the alcohol from the liver, the cirrhosis of the liver.
Let's take it in stages.
Yeah.
2008, no, don't worry. 2008 to 2009, Vincent just wasn't well.
No.
And you've said his skin kept bleeding with the slightest knock.
Yep.
And he kept getting infections.
Infections, yes.
So he'd go on to some antibiotics.
Antibiotics, yeah, backwards and forwards from the hospital, having endoscopies to see what was going on inside. His stomach kept bloating out. I can't remember what they call it now. He had to have that drained. Must have had that drained about 4 times, I think.
And in 2009, Vincent was diagnosed with cirrhosis of the liver,
Yes.
and he was told it was probably caused by alcohol.
Yes.
In your statement, you disputed that Vincent was a heavy drinker, and Dr. Lee has responded to your statement and highlighted a number of medical records from different doctors saying that Vincent was drinking heavily.
Yes.
You've reflected and you accept that Vincent was drinking heavily and, as you've said, was an alcoholic, but only from about 2006, and he'd stopped drinking by Christmas 2008.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
So, although he'd been drinking, it had only been for a couple of years. It hadn't been for the decades that the doctors seemed to be suggesting.
No. I mean, obviously, prior weekend drinking sort of thing, as any young person does, but not to the extent that he did build up to.
And then Christmas 2008, you're clear that he had stopped drinking.
Yes.
Vincent worked as a long-distance lorry driver
Yes.
during this time, and he was involved in an accident in August 2009. Can you tell us what happened?
We used to deliver operating tables, actually, to hospitals. He lost consciousness at the wheel and ended up going up into the back of another car. Got taken into the hospital. I had a phone call saying that he'd been involved in an RTA and he was really, really serious. So I phoned his dad, and his dad and myself drove up there to Sandwell Hospital. I can just remember walking in there, and he was in his bed, and the priest was standing over him because they didn't think he was going to survive it. And it was at that point that the doctor there confirmed that he was hepatitis C positive. And I just remember the shock, because we didn't realise that before.
And when he was in hospital in Manchester, at that point in time, you were told that he had hepatitis C and that it was likely the cause of the cirrhosis of the liver.
Yes.
That was the first time you were aware that Vincent had hepatitis C.
Yes.
In your statement, you've said that you were upset that Dr. Lee hadn't told Vincent he had hepatitis C.
Yeah.
And Dr. Lee has responded to your witness statement and said there was an error in the hospital systems. So he never knew about the result of a hepatitis C test that he'd ordered.
No, according to his statement, at the time, I didn't know that, but I couldn't understand how come Sandwell Hospital picked up on it and Worthing Hospital didn't, even though Vincent had been to the hospital numerous times prior to that.
And if we can have document 3175015, please. It's a letter from Dr. Lee saying, "Please could you let me know if Mr. Baker is hepatitis C positive? I've heard from 2 separate sources, i.e. his GP and a hospital in Birmingham called Sandwell Hospital, that he's positive. I've yet to receive a report of this, and I can't find any record of the result being filed in the notes. I'd be very grateful if you could look into this for me." Have you ever seen this document before?
No.
Despite asking for Vincent's medical records, until Dr. Lee provided this letter, you weren't aware that this is what had happened?
No.
Dr. Lee, we know from the documents he's provided to us, then escalated the issue and raised an incident report about it with the hospital. But you remain concerned that the hospital had failed to pass on the result to Dr. Lee.
Yes, if they knew in February, we didn't find out until April after the RTA accident. Where was that piece of paper? Oh, surely they should have informed Dr. Lee about it straight away as soon as they had the results.
And your concern is that if Vincent had been told that he had hepatitis C in February 2009, when the test result came back, you're concerned that he could have had treatment and wouldn't have died.
That is a good possibility. It's just, what if? We'll never know.
Dr. Lee has responded and said that Vincent was too unwell to receive the antiviral drugs, even when he was seen in February 2009, because he needed treatment of the ascites and the variceal hemorrhage at that point. Again, what's your response to that?
but what if? So, you just don't know. Like, that 3 months, all right, it's only 3 months, but that 3 months could have saved his life, or he could have had the treatment, or had his liver transplant earlier. But it was just the not knowing.
After Vincent had received treatment for the varices and the ascites, Vincent was referred to King's College London for assessment for a transplant.
Yes.
Could we have document 3175011, please? And it's the second and third paragraphs of the letter. Thank you. He doesn't have any major contraindications for consideration of transplantation at that stage in August 2009. But if we look at paragraph 3, there were some concerns about his heart condition and whether he would be suitable or not. Do you remember that discussion?
I can remember going up to King's College, and because he reached the top of the list, and thinking he was going to go ahead with the liver transplant. But unfortunately, because of his heart failure, it was just too risky for them to operate. So he got sent back to Worthing Hospital.
And we can see at the end of that letter that there was a discussion about whether he would have the pegylated interferon as well, but it was subject to, again, further investigation of his heart condition. If we can then go to 1825002, please. And the fourth page, which should be a letter dated the 22nd of February 2010. I think it's the next page, Paul. It's a letter from King's Hospital to the GP, and if we go down towards the end, there's a useful summary of his medical history, noting that he had been seen at King's College Hospital in 2009, where he was considered for transplantation workup. That was in August 2009, and at that time the only issues prohibiting him from listing was of ST depression identified on a CPEX testing. That's his heart condition. He'd then undergone an angiogram in October 2009, which delineated no significant coronary artery disease. So in October 2009, as you say, he'd gone on to the liver transplant list, and it looked very much like he was going to have a transplant.
Yep.
Unfortunately, Vincent became very unwell shortly afterwards. Do you remember what happened?
What, from King's College?
Yeah, from October 2009.
From
He had a
October.
heart condition.
Yeah. I just know he got sent back to Worthing. He was virtually constantly at Worthing Hospital. I say he kept getting infections, getting confused. Tried to escape from the hospital once. And the police had to bring him back. He just sort of went downhill.
He had 2 episodes of a very serious heart valve infection called infective endocarditis, didn't he?
No.
He had really nasty infections. And we can see, if we go back to the letter we were just looking at, when he was seen at King's, here at the last paragraph of the letter. He's now a child's BC cirrhotic, and the fact that he's had an intracerebral bleed within 24 hours, aortic valve replacement was felt to be a too high a risk because of the liver, and also then, secondly and currently, liver transplantation in the setting of acute active infection, and a recent intracerebral hemorrhage would be totally contraindicated. So by the time he was seen here in King's, there were just too many things going on for Vincent, weren't there, for him to either be have a heart operation or to have his liver transplant.
Yeah.
So as you say, he was transferred back to Worthing for palliative care.
Yeah.
And that was your understanding at the time.
Right. Yes.
From August 2009, Vincent was mostly in hospital because you weren't able to manage him at home. Can you tell us a little bit of how Vincent was physically and mentally in those last few months?
Physically, there was nothing of him. He just lost so much weight. He was all skin and bone. Mentally, he was confused. He turned nasty towards the family. He stopped having treatment because he knew that he wasn't going to last much longer. It wasn't him.
You've given some examples in your statement. One of them was when he'd ordered something from the internet and missed the parcel delivery. Can you
Yeah.
tell us about that?
Yeah, he ordered something. He was asleep when the delivery came. So he decided, rather than wait for the next day, he decided that he wanted to go up to Crawley to go and pick it up. I told him that he wasn't in no fit state to drive the car, but I couldn't argue with him, sort of thing. He got in the car. So meant to go from Brighton to Crawley. He ended up down in Hastings, in a ditch, in a tree, and he phoned me up and he says, I don't know what I'm doing, I can't move the car. But because he was on the stump of a tree, and then the police come and found him.
That was one of the few times he was home in that period.
Yeah,
And then in the later stages of his illness, he realised there was nothing could be done for him, and he phoned you quite regularly.
yeah.
What did he tell you?
Can you read that?
Of course. He sometimes expressed the fact that there was nothing that could be done in strange ways, such as phoning me and telling me he was having affairs in an effort to make me angry at him so I'd be less distressed when he passed away. Vincent died on the 20th of March 2010. Can you tell us a little bit about the impact, the effect of his death on you?
It was very hard. Hard on the kids. Also, they didn't have their dad no more.
And they were just 9, 7 and 5
5. Yeah.
when he died.
Yeah. My older two, not too bad. My younger one, it's affected her quite a bit. She was daddy's girl, sort of thing. So, but yeah, no, it's been a struggle with the girls.
But for you, you've had to become a single mum with your girls,
Yeah,
and you've got other caring responsibilities
Yeah,
you're shouldering on your own.
yeah. At the point, I took on my two brothers that were 21 years younger than me. They're twins. One of them's so I'm his carer. Yeah, I was just looking after all 5 of them and trying to work and keep the house going.
And you've said to me that the girls now are still in education. That they're only in their teenage years.
Yes.
2 of them have been okay, but the little one has had quite considerable mental health difficulties.
Yes. Yeah.
Financially, before we go there, while Vincent was ill, how much did your daughters know about it?
At first, I think they just grew into it was an everyday thing. But the more he deteriorated, I didn't want the girls seeing their dad this way and losing his way and not being him. And so, because of his confused state from the infections, and I took him to see him, but not as much. Over time, it just got less, sort of thing. Because I didn't feel it was the right place to take 3 girls in the hospital.
What do they remember of their dad?
Well, they got their photographs. They just remember Chessington, Portland's Park. Not quite so much Cornwall, not my younger one, but no. I just remember playing with him in the garden.
But once he was ill, you've said in your statement that they don't really remember him, apart from the fact that he was in and out of hospital.
Yeah, they don't. No, they can't recall how serious he was, sort of thing. So I didn't feel it was the right place to keep taking the girls, even though, yeah, it's their dad, but so the way he was.
And you've said that when the family knew about your husband having hepatitis C, they Googled it. And what did they say
Yeah.
to you?
Well, his uncle, he turned around and said to me, "Don't use his toothbrush because you'll I'll get it," sort of thing. Yeah, of course, touching the blood. I used to touch his wounds all the time, clean him up, put his dressings on, sort of thing. And like, I didn't think nothing. I was just doing the wifely thing, looking after him.
And your feeling about the family was that they were trying to be helpful, but actually
Yes,
for
but
you
they-
it was just too hard.
No, it was the opposite. So that's the worst thing you can actually do is Google. I've learnt that.
Financially, things have been difficult for you as well. You stopped a part-time job in November 2009 when Vincent also stopped work.
No, that's when I started.
Sorry, that's when you started.
I started,
Apologies,
yeah.
that's when you started. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, because after Vincent's accident, he realised that he couldn't actually go back to work because of everything that was going on. So he actually resigned from his job because he thought it was unfair on them. So, of course, we went on benefits then, but then I managed to find a part-time job at the school, running the kitchens. I thought it was a bit of an income. The girls were at the school as well, so it just worked.
You've received some payments through the Skipton Fund.
Yeah.
What are your views of the financial assistance that you've been provided?
It sounds a lot, but it's not a lot. No, not when the girls are so young. I mean, he was on a very good salary, sort of thing. I say, yeah, my youngest was 5 at the time, sort of thing. So she's 15 now. Yeah, it's been hard, but I've managed. So,
But financially it's been a struggle as the
Yeah.
girls have grown up.
yeah, 3 girls, one.
And you feel that the financial assistance simply hasn't been anywhere near enough
No.
compared to what Vincent would have earned if he'd
Would
been
have earned. I mean, he was on between 35 £45,000 a year, that sort of thing. And so what they paid out was a 1.5 year salary. So, we could have had a house by now, bought a house. I'm still in my council house. I mean, no disrespect to that. I love my house, sort of thing. But things could have been different.
Those are the questions I have for you. Is there anything else you would like to say? No. Just stay there a moment. I want to ask Miss Gibbs whether there's any points she wants me to raise. There's nothing Miss Gibbs wants me to raise. Sir, is there anything?
Well, yes, there is. When you first heard that Vincent had hepatitis C, were you told anything about it?
To be honest, I can't honestly remember because it was just such a shock hearing that he had that. I mean, Dr. Lee, bless him, he done us good because he managed to find out where he contracted it from. He went back through the records, sort of thing. But no, I can't recall being told anything.
Before your uncle Googled, did anyone tell you what to do to keep yourselves safe from a chance of cross-infection?
I can't honestly remember because so much was just going on. So I probably got given a leaflet or something.
So somebody might have said something, but you can't remember.
Yeah.
And you can't remember because of all the stress of everything that was happening.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Did anyone offer you any counselling at all, or Vincent any counselling about it?
I think someone mentioned something, but because I've had my 3 young girls, I just focused and they kept me strong. I had to stay strong for them.
Do you remember who said something?
I can't honestly remember. I say 'cause it was just so long ago, and that sort of 9-month period was just such a blur, in and out of hospitals every day, and right.
That's all that I've got to ask. Thank you very much indeed, Michelle, for coming to give us your evidence.
Thank you.
Well, we'll take a break now, shall we, until 2 o'clock.
Thank you.
And at 2 o'clock we have Peter Buckland, do we?
That's correct, sir. Yes,
And tell us about VCJD.
that's right.
2 o'clock.